And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of GMAT Club's YouTube Debriefs. I'm so excited. My name is Evan. For those of you who don't know me by that name, I will reiterate that most of you should by this point. You hopefully know me by my forum name, which is Nightblade354. Duan here, who I am interviewing, did not know my username. I had to tell him it, so automatically he got off on the wrong foot. Let's see if we can right that ship. But welcome to all those joining us. I'm super excited to see all of you. As I just said, Duan is here. He's going to be doing our debrief this morning. He's going to tell us all about how he went from a 610, which was his initial mock test, I believe, all the way up to a 730, and pretty much only using GMAT Club. And before we dive in, before I have him introduce himself, I want to reiterate a couple of things, which is that, one, he's not being compensated by GMAT Club in any way, shape, or form, nor is he being compensated by anybody else as far as I know. So let's get that out of the way. Second, he's been advised that he can trash talk or praise whomever he wants. If he wants to trash talk GMAT Club, he's allowed to. I'm not going to stop him. My platform, this video in particular, is meant to be completely honest. It is meant to give you a real representation of test resources and not just the, oh, I got a 750, look how great I am, and then find out it's purely marketing tactics. That's not what this is. Lastly, and this is the most important part, I hope all of you watching do get something out of this and feel that you can relate to it in some capacity, because that's why we do these. We want you to get motivated by Duan's story, so that way you can achieve the goal, so that way you can get into business school, and that way you can come on this show and you can tell your story one day too. And by the way, if you're interested, please reach out to GMAT Club about doing a debrief. We'd love to have you. With that said, Duan, introduce yourself, buddy. Sorry about that long-winded intro, and sorry that we were running a few minutes late. That's on me.
That's all right. Hopefully I can right my wrong, as you said earlier. So I'm 23 years old. I've just finished my undergraduate last year, and I've been working in an industry that's not relevant to what I want to get into. I've been working in like tech and software, and I want to get into finance. So this GMAT is a really crucial step that I needed. That I will need because I haven't got my acceptances yet.
Yes, that all-important pivot in jobs
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
MBA.
exactly. So I'm going for a pre-experience master's in finance, and unlike MBA applicants, I only really have like 1 year or one like shot, I guess, for the GMAT, because if I have 2 years of non-industry experience, then my likelihood of getting into my target universities drop quite significantly.
Yes, they do. MBAs usually like 5-6 years of experience before they want to take it, at least for those in the top 15, the M7, so on and so forth. So that is an accurate statement.
Yeah. So yeah, I did a mock test, like completely cold. I didn't really know much about the GMAT. I just knew it was a standardized test by which everyone gets tested on the same stuff. And I was like, okay, this sounds pretty good. I want to, I guess, prove myself. So I took a mock test. I got a 610, which is in the 57th percentile, I believe.
Yeah, it's a good starting point.
Yeah, so I got pretty average score to start with, and I said, okay, to be honest, I was quite happy with that starting off. And then I began my GMAT journey maybe like 4 or 5 months later when I started doing it seriously. And yeah, so that's my story.
We're gonna dive into those details. Don't you worry. We're gonna have build on this. It's funny, and you and I talked about this off YouTube. So for those of you watching, yes, when you come on here, we do talk beforehand. We know there is a prep that goes along with this, and it's funny how the number of people who come in here on these videos in particular and say, "Oh, there's no way we're hitting an hour. There's not enough content." There's more than enough meat on that bone to really go an hour. Heck, I could get 2 hours out of these sessions if we really wanted to. So don't you worry. We're gonna dive in there. I forgot to mention at the beginning. So we're still highlighting sort of the Duan's journey on GMAT Club where he posted it. I have not read it. And that's for two reasons. One, I'm lazy. But that goes hand in hand with the second reason, which is I know all of you watching this are probably equally as lazy and probably haven't read it either. Meaning that if I read this and you haven't, I'm coming into this video probably knowing more than you, at least about his journey, and I'm going to make assumptions that we don't want me to make, because then you don't hear those details and we sort of gloss over them and everyone's sort of left equally clueless. No, that's not why we do these. We do these to tease out every single bit and shred of information possible. So that is, Duan, no offense to you, that is why I have not read your debrief. I hope you don't hate me for it. But I want to pull you back a little bit, which is I want to go back to you starting your from your graduation. You've just graduated. You were going to consider getting your master's. You sort of already knew that you didn't want to go in the direction of tech, that you want to go into finance. And so you knew, okay, I need to go to business school, or I need a master's in finance. Let me ask, what was the first thing you did once you decided that? Was it, were you Googling? Were you like, okay, what's the best way to pivot? Were you looking up what's the best way to get into business schools? What was that thought process like?
Well, towards the end of my university degree, so in the UK, I know in the US it's 4 years. In
Yep.
the UK, it's 3 years for undergraduate.
USA.
I kind of felt a bit lost. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted. So I started like looking around for industries, and I came across private equity, which I was like, okay, this is fantastic. This sounds like exactly, this is perfectly suited towards me. And I started researching, like, okay, how do people go into private equity? And I started looking up on LinkedIn the top companies, and I noticed that all the people came to top schools. They all went to like Oxford or Cambridge or Imperial, or from Europe at least. LSE, London Business School, like all these like top European universities. And I was like, okay, well, it seems like the likelihood that I get into a top private equity firm is pretty low unless I manage to secure a place at one of these top schools. So then my next step was, okay, how do I get a place at one of the top schools? I started looking up, okay, like on their admissions websites, and they just all mentioned GMAT for some reason. I was like, okay, well, what is this GMAT thing? And then that's how I stumbled across GMAT, and then I started researching about how to do well at the GMAT and previous stories, and then it became evident that GMAT Club was one of the top resources to improve.
And that was very methodical of you. So you did the research. And by the way, to answer your question, how do you get into private equity? You sell your soul to the devil. That's pretty much how you do it. So in case anybody wants a shortcut, that's the way. So you found this wonderful thing called GMAT, this thing that was going to wreck your life, make it miserable, put you through trials and tribulations you never thought physically or emotionally possible. What was the first thing you did at that point? So you've discovered the GMAT. Were you then Googling resources? Were you saying, okay, what's the best prep company? What was the next step in that process once you understood you needed to take this daunting exam?
The first thing I did when I realized I needed to take this daunting exam was do a mock test just to see where I was at.
And which mock did you take?
I took the GMAT official practice test 1.
Excellent.
I thought that would be the most reliable coming from the company that actually provides the test.
And you were right.
So I scored a 610. A breakdown was Quant 47, verbal 28. 59% Quant, 50% verbal reasoning by percentiles.
And that's a pretty good starting point. I mean, a 610 first time out of the gate here, that shows you have a fairly good level of intelligence. And again, you used the official ones, so that was about as accurate as you were going to get. When you did the intro, you said that you took a couple of months to sort of figure things out before you decide to really pursue this fully. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah. So I had a few internships over the summer. So I really focused on those internships, and it was only sort of towards the end of the summer that I started focusing, or really like cracking down and figure out how I was going to tackle this GMAT, because I kind of knew I needed to to do well.
Wow. Okay. So again, you graduate, you basically take a mock and say, okay, where do I stand? And then you start working for a little bit and sort of, you don't lose sight of it, but it sort of gets put on the back burner as you begin to build your experience. And by the way, folks, those of you who are watching, there are 2 free mock tests that GMAT provides. I believe it's still on MBA.com unless they've switched the URL around. You can download 2 of them for free. There are, I think 4 additional ones you can purchase, but those are the best mock tests you can buy. They're an actual representation of the test itself. So Dwan here did the right thing by going to that and downloading that and subsequently taking it. All right, so we've gone through our internships. By the way, how were they? Did you like them? Did you hate them?
Yeah, they went well. So yeah, I had one in Africa, which was that's what I mean. But I'm not a typical applicant. And then I had another research one for the university, which then kind of gave me a follow-on contract to build them some software. So it was while I was doing that software job that I started doing the GMAT alongside that. But before that, I knew that I wanted to plan my GMAT out really well before doing it, because I'd read a bunch of debriefs and I had heard lots of stories about people not doing it right from the beginning and they lose loads of time. So I was like, okay, I want to gather as much information as I possibly can before starting. And yeah, that's where GMAT Club came in.
When did you discover us? And actually, shoot, before you answer that, folks, if you ask a question, you can type it in the yeah, it's over here. The chat box. I'm disoriented. Put it in the chat box and hit enter. And at the end of the video, if we have time, I'll make sure to get to them. So, but back to our story here. So you discovered GMAT Club, you were Googling, our name came up. Was it this hallelujah moment? I mean, were angels singing? I mean, tell me about what happened once you discovered GMAT Club.
It was like Hallelujah Angels were singing when I came across Bunal's Ultimate Quant mega thread. Because it just seemed like it had all the resources I needed, all put in one place, written by the same person, so I could get used to his teaching style. And it was free. Like that was the main thing. It was free, to be honest.
Yes, 99% GMAT Club is free. We do have some paid subscription services, but in general, we are a free platform.
Actually, I think the first time I came across GMAT Club, I was watching some YouTube video. I think it's one of these classic YouTube videos where someone goes, "Oh, I studied for 2 months and got a 760 or 770."
I hate those people.
Yeah, me too. But it was on one of those. The person was like, "Oh, go to the GMAT Club tags and search by question type," which is exactly what I did throughout most of my revision. I think that was the first time. So it was actually through a YouTube video that I first came across it. But even if I hadn't come across GMAT Club on that YouTube video, I mean, it would have been GMAT Club would have popped up some way or another, because it's a very large platform.
We hope. Maybe not, but we hope. So you've stumbled across GMAT Club. You were sort of, going around. You were figuring things out to a certain extent. Let me ask, when did you decide, okay, now is the time I'm going to recommit myself fully to studying and really bring the hammer down, put my foot to the pedal here, and get going on studying again full time?
Okay, so I tracked my hours, so I can tell you an exact date. Let me just try and share my screen real quick.
Ooh, we're gonna share screens, boy.
All right, here we go.
See how this goes.
Can you see this?
Here, I can share that.
Yeah, can you put that? There we go. So here you go. That is the total number of hours I did by day throughout my entire revision. So I really started, it was probably October the 30th. That's when I really cracked down. So you see this large gap, this 11-day gap in October. That was while I was working. I had a lot of work on. I just couldn't find time to do GMAT. And then so I took 2 months off work so I could really, really focus. I know that that's quite a privilege and a lot of people don't have that opportunity. But I had the opportunity, so I took advantage of it. And then and then yeah, that's when the as what did you how did you describe it earlier? The horrors of GMAT, you putting yourself through some extreme
Trials and
difficulty.
tribulations.
Yeah, trials. This is where the trials and tribulations came in. All of this up here, this was kind of like not too seriously. I guess 5 hours a day here was fairly. How long did I do this for?
Well, so walk us through the color coding here.
Weeks.
So red obviously is 0, meaning you screwed up, you didn't study
No,
bad.
0 hours of revision is yeah. So this is by number of hours of revision by
So
day.
what was acceptable to you? So I see 1 is like a lightish yellow, 2 is a little bit darker green, 3 we're getting a little bit kinder on the green, and then so what was the amount you felt was green worthy that like yes, you've done a good job?
So actually, I filtered this in Excel, so it automatically color codes it for me. So I didn't assign the colors myself.
Okay.
But what I felt was acceptable depended on what I was doing during the day. So what I felt acceptable was in 4 and 5 hours while I was working. So that was fairly successful during this period, during like mid-August to mid-September. And then workload got quite heavy, and then workload got really heavy around this time. And then I took 2 months off. I rented a room in like a different city, and I kind of just isolated myself from everybody. I was like, okay, I really just want to crack down this GMAT. I want like 99% of my brain's energy to be focused on GMAT, and that's when this period began. So it was really November was really my crackdown time, and you can I think I averaged 7.8 hours. I think it says down here 7.8 hours a day in November, and then towards the end of my GMAT journey, I didn't want to push myself too hard. It was a bit of a mixture of sort of burnout slightly.
I was just about to get to that.
yeah. So you can see over here, like I burnt out over here. Over here, and then this towards the end, this was like a purposeful slowdown.
Yep.
Where I didn't want to be completely burnt out for the actual exam, so I sort of toned it down to maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, roughly. And yeah, and that was my test day, January the 3rd, and the day before I didn't do any practice. I just wanted to relax.
All right, a lot to unpack here, but we're starting to see mid-July that we're dipping our toe in the water. The creature's reaching out; it's kind of pulling you in. It wants to drown you. So you're sticking your toes in the water there. You're getting a feel for it, and then it picks up. But again, you're balancing your internships and your every other part of your life. Let me ask: when you started in July, just a little bit dipping your toe in the water there, what was your goal for a score, and what was your timetable? Were you saying, boy, if I could get a 750 in 2 months, I'm good? Or were you saying, you know what, this is probably gonna take 3, 4, 6 months, and if I could break 700, I'm gonna be a happy guy?
Yeah, the second one. So I wanted a 700. That's all I want. I was like, okay, if I get a 700, I'll be very happy, because I know how hard other people have tried. I know D Cummins took 2 years or something like that to get a 710. So yeah, this actually was kind of while I was in Africa at this time doing my internship. So I wasn't really focused on GMAT. This I wouldn't say is particularly productive. I didn't study purposefully during this time. I really started studying purposefully around about. So yeah, I came back from Africa on the 9th of August. So I'd say from the 10th of August is when my study really began.
And so let me ask, was throughout your studying, because you did only take the test once and you got a 730, which beat your expectation, it's a fantastic score. Did your studying habits change or evolve between August and January? Meaning you were doing something and you realized, you know what, this really doesn't work. Let me pull back on the reins a bit and tweak this. Or were you fairly consistent in the way you were studying throughout?
So there's sort of two parts to this answer. On like a micro level, it's stayed pretty much the same. I was doing 45 minutes of revision, then doing 5 to 10 minutes break, then doing another 45 minutes revision, and I would just repeat that over and over, and then count the number of cycles I did to calculate how many hours I did. On the slightly bigger like day-to-day scale, it did change. I have another note I can show revision time. Here we go. So that was my original plan. So I had planned to do maths during for the first section, and then I realized, oh no, I need, like, my verbal was weak. I did maths first because it was more fun. I shouldn't have done that. I should have done an equal like verbal and quant. And then so then it changed. So I did mostly quant at the beginning, and then I did mixed verbal and quant together. If I had to do it again, I would study verbal and quant 50-50 right from the beginning.
And so let me ask, how many questions would you say you were doing in that 45, 50-minute review period? Was it 5 questions? Was it 10 questions? Was it, I just want our, I want our audience to understand sort of how much time you were committing to studying the fundamentals, how much time you were committing to taking the questions, and how much time you were then committing to revision.
So I split my study up into several steps. The first one was mostly just studying the material and understanding the concepts.
And how long would you say that took you to build those foundations to feel good?
I'm trying to think of it. I'd give you a figure, but I'm not really sure.
I mean, we're this isn't a lie detector test.
Okay, I would probably say about a third of my time. So what, 200 hours to like really like nail down everything.
And if I can just take a step back further, when you were doing those 200 hours, was it strictly through GMAT Club? Was it through a prep company? What were you doing to build those fundamentals? Because a lot of students miss this concept and struggle, chiefly a lot of Americans, where we say, oh, we're just going to keep practicing questions. We'll get it right eventually, and we'll brute force our way through the test. And that's not the way you can do this exam. You're going to fail every time. So how did you build those fundamentals?
I didn't use any prep. I didn't pay for any courses. I used the Manhattan books for verbal, and I used Bunel's Ultimate Quant Mega Thread for quant.
Which is on GMAT Club, by the way. And again, completely free. Bunel's a supercomputer AI that was coded by GMAT Club, and it spits out all these amazing algorithms and things that would baffle even some of the most brilliant physicists of our day.
I can't tell if is that something that you say is a joke, or is that like actually true? Like Bunel's actually an AI? Because I've heard you say that before.
Until someone wants to come on here and tell me otherwise, I will maintain Bunel is a supercomputer and an AI. So until Bunel jumps on here, or until BB or one of the other founding members of GMAT Club wants to dispute me, that is the real story.
Yeah. So back to your previous question, when you're asking me how much time I was spending doing the questions versus learning the concepts. At first, it was like 90% of my time was spent learning the concepts. But like on Bunel's Ultimate Quant Mega Thread, he gives you questions after, like, he explains like a very simple concept, and then he gives you a question, and then he explains the next concept, which builds on the previous concept.
How dare you assume the gender of our supercomputer?
Yeah, whoops.
Call it he, I don't care.
Yeah, so I estimated I did about 4,000 to 5,000 questions in total, and if you break that down by number of hours I did, I think that arrives to around about 7 questions per hour, which is really not much. So I think that shows two things. Firstly, I spent most of my time reviewing and learning the material. Yes. And secondly, I was probably not as efficient as I could have been during those 8 to 9 hour revision days.
Why do you say that?
Probably because it's hard to maintain focus for extreme lengths of time throughout the day. I think if people revise maybe 3 hours a day, the amount of the quality of learning is probably going to be higher than 8 to 9 hours. But my mentality of doing a high number of hours was that I had the time, and I could do 3 hours of focused work, or maybe 4 or 5 hours of focused work, or I could just do like the maximum number of hours I did, and I'd probably learn more, even if it was less efficient.
Well, so then let me ask, if you could redo it, reflection is always important. Burnout is a chief problem among test takers. You cited it, and you could see it at the end there that there was some burnout. What would you say was your optimal level of studying hours per day? I mean, is it that 3 to 4 hour range where you can, get the highest amount of concentrated work, or would you say it was maybe a little more, a little less?
So I've got two answers to this question. Firstly, in terms of highest quality study per unit time, probably around 3 hours,
Okay.
spaced out, maybe like 45 minutes and then 45 and then a break 45 minutes, and then I take a break, like a longer break, and then do another 45 minutes and 45 minutes later. And my second part of the answer is on like a daily scale, like to maximize the amount of revision or study intake I can have during one day. I would say, yeah, 8 to 9 hours is the optimum for me, even though it's less efficient per unit time. Overall per day, the amount of like studying I can do, yeah, 8 to 9 hours. I found that when I was studying 8 to 9 hours, so what I'd do is I'd do 45 minutes and then 5 minute break, repeat that 4 times, then have lunch, and then repeat the 45 minute 5 minute break 4 times again, and then have snack, and then do it again, and then have dinner and then go to bed, or relax and then go to bed. That's what I do. And when I did that, I was just so focused on the GMAT that there was nothing really else like existed in my mind. I was just okay, this is what I've got to do. And because like nothing else existed, I didn't really get distracted. I didn't really question myself. Like if I was a bit tired, I wouldn't go, oh, I'm tired, I'm gonna like watch YouTube or mess around. Like I even if I was tired, I'd just still sit down and like do a reading comprehension or do whichever I had on my list of things to do. So I found that the long how do I describe this? The more you get into the rhythm of it, the easier it becomes to stay on that path. It's like once you fall off like the bandwagon, once I cracked once, so you can see sort of here I cracked once, then it became really hard to get back on. So I feel like consistency is key. Like, yeah, I mean everyone says it's consistency is key, but I think consistency is key because it also just takes less energy in total, because like it takes so much energy to go from not doing any revision for a few days to then go straight back to doing like a really high number of hours of revision. Whereas actually less energy if you had revised a high number of hours every day and consistently, because then you kind of just like forget about all the other fun stuff you could be doing because you're so focused on doing the GMAT.
Well, so I was going to ask about that at some point, but I mean, I'm just amazed at how sort of methodical and borderline mathematical the approach was. And you're bringing it down to units of time per efficiency. Like you're looking at basically, to use a finance term here, you're looking at an efficient frontier curve where you're saying, okay, this is the optimal range. And while I may be skewing a little bit lower here, I know that, the overall trend is still positive. I'm blown away that was how you were trying to measure yourself and how you were going about it, to say the least.
Yeah.
You're gonna make it.
Okay. So here's like an analogy. I quite like analogies. So when I was studying 8 to 9 hours a day, it's like I was like standing on like this ball, and like every time I would like do something that wasn't really everything I'd do something that would be fun in a way. Like every time I would like, I don't know, have like fast food, it's like I was like taking one step off this little ball, and then it would take energy to get back on the middle. Every time I'd like spend time watching some video that wasn't particularly useful, I was taking a further step out. And the more further and further I step out from this ball, the harder and harder it becomes to then like climb back up. I know that's not how everyone, like a lot of other people work. A lot of other people sort of need that downtime and need to sort of have fun. For me personally, I'm the most efficient at when I just sort of remove any kind of enjoyment, which sounds I know that might not resonate with a lot of people, but it might with some.
I'm of the personal belief, and I'm a pretty big proponent of the idea that you can only push yourself so far, that you need balance in some capacity. I'm a huge advocate of the idea of working out to just keep your stress
Oh well,
levels
yeah, I did
down.
that. Yeah,
Okay, good.
I did that.
I'm a huge proponent of getting 8-9 hours of sleep a night. Make sure that once you're done studying for the day, let yourself unwind a bit with with a movie or videos or
Mm.
reading or whatever helps center you the most. So the fact that you were so purely determined, I mean, borderline machine like, it is quite interesting to hear.
Well, it's
Um,
not quite machine like. As you can see from here, I did fall off this metaphorical
you're still studying
ball.
2-3 hours a day, which is not a tiny amount. That's a good amount to study. And to claim that that's where you fell off,
Mm.
I mean, it's an impressive run. It really is. I think you may be being just a wee bit critical of yourself in that respect.
Mm. Yeah, I did work out. And you mentioned sleep. I found sleep was so critical. I never knew sleep made such a large impact on my mental performance, but it was very, very obvious, especially like with quant, and reading comprehension as well.
Oh
Like
yeah.
if I had like even like just like 7 hours of sleep, 6.5 hours of sleep, like then I could immediately tell I'll do a reading comprehension and I'd read the question, and then my memory of what the reading like passage was would be really fuzzy. Whereas if I had slept like 8 or 9 hours, then it would be crystal clear.
We should get this sponsored by like a sleeper, a pillow company or something. If anybody knows anybody like at Sealy or Tempur-Pedic or one of those, can you get them in touch with me? I feel like we need to get this sponsored
Yeah.
somehow. But Duan, to your point, those are things you need to discover, and you needed to find the optimal rhythm of how you were going to perform, and you found it. Well, let me ask, what were you doing for exercise? What do you bench, bro?
Uh, Not particularly high, something like 65 or something. Um,
Kilograms?
Kilograms, yeah, kilograms. I know we use
I'm an
metric
ignorant
units.
American. Help me with the pounds. What was that in pounds?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So yeah, I'd go to the gym, maybe like 2, 3 times a week. So yeah, that's what that would be my go-to. But also like I'm just want to quickly touch on the point previously when I said I wanted to like reduce the enjoyment. I found GMAT quite enjoyable. So really, what I meant is I want to shift
Yikes.
my enjoyment focus from like eating fast food or like unhealthy stuff to the GMAT enjoyment. What you want to do is like replace the fun stuff that you would do normally with GMAT and actually enjoy the GMAT. Like especially quant, I quite enjoyed. Although it was extremely frustrating and I broke a few pens in frustration a few times. Overall, it was very enjoyable.
Not many people come on here and say, "Boy, it was a hoot and a half. No, it was fun quant." I mean, it's like going to your doctor. Hey guys, I got 15 injections, and no, they prodded and poked me all over. Oh, it was a blast. Don't get a
Yeah,
whole lot of those on this programming, which is not a bad thing. It's just it's unique. So you enjoyed it, which I think actually probably helped you maintain 8-9 hours a day of studying. Because if you're sitting here saying, "Oh my god, I want to blow my brains out going through this," you're not going to do eight
yeah,
9 hours a day for 3 months. It's just not going to happen. You're going to break physically and emotionally.
yeah.
Um,
I also think it's important for people to know at what point they like know at what level of questions they enjoy doing, because I think a lot of people they immediately jump to these 700 level questions or a level of question that is higher than what they're really capable of
and what
because
would
they
you
want to
recommend they
prove to
do as they
yeah,
build?
because they want to prove to themselves that they are of a certain standard. Like, I think people should just throw this idea of, oh, I want to prove that I'm a certain standard out the window, and really just like focus on a level of questions where in between challenging and fun, even if that might be dropping down to like 500 level questions, because especially towards the start, it's really crucial that people get enjoyment out of studying, because in the long run, that's what's going to carry them through the long revision sessions. So yeah, for me that was like 600 to 700 level quant. Usually that's when I enjoyed the most. I could get into the zone, and it's only when I built that momentum up that I then tried like a few 700 level questions. Yeah.
Duan, you've hit on an excellent point, and it's so important. The GMAT in particular will bury you if you get easy questions wrong. It will reward you minimally getting the hard ones right. You have to master the fundamentals, and you have to get the easy and medium ones right every time. Otherwise, you will not break 700. It's just not going to happen. So that is a crucial thing to realize and understand. Duan, it sounds like you came to that realization. And funny enough, when I took, I've taken these tests, as most of you know, LSAT, GRE, pull 9 yards. Frankly, I hated them all. When I was in these tests, there were questions on there where I'd figure it out and get stuck in a situation and take my time and actually try and figure it out, and I'd get through it. Again, on the test, live, time pressure on 9 yards, I'd be like, you know what? Good for me. That was actually a fun question. It was difficult, but I got it right. And that was kind of fun. So you have to find some enjoyment in it. Otherwise, you're just, you're going to defeat yourself in the end.
Yeah. Also, like finding like a new way to solve a question, I find that really fun. So I'd like solve a question, and then I'd try and find a different way of solving it. And sometimes I'd like think of my own ways of solving it, and I was like, oh wow, that was quite fun. It was like, yeah. So I think that was a key difference between what I do and what I've heard a lot of other people do, especially with quant, is I would do a question, and then so I wouldn't click on the answer. I'd do the question, and then I'll just do the question again, but I'll just try a different method, and then I'll do the question again and again and again. So I'd like do one question, but do it like 3 or 4 times, in as many different ways as I could think of.
And so the supercomputer known as Brunel actually hits on this quite a bit, where people will message me and say, how on earth did Brunel come up with this? Because it's so out of left field, but it's so much more straightforward than what the traditional method is. Sometimes that's what you have to do to get to your end goal. So that's also fairly impressive adaptation. Let me ask, how often were you taking mock tests? So you took the one at the very beginning post your undergraduate degree, and you got the 610. We're now again, it was July, August, where you started to really pick up steam. And actually, I'll share this again, even though I just took it off. At what point did you start to take mock tests, and how consistent were you with them?
So I had quite a different strategy with mock tests than most other people. I wanted to be very comfortable with the topics. I wanted to have practiced them a lot before going into the mock tests. I think part of the reason was that I didn't want to get too down about it. I'm not sure if that's even like the right way to approach it. But I knew that like if I had studied all this time and then I'd gotten maybe like another 610 or like another 630, I would have been quite down about it. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to prepare absolutely everything. So I had looked at, so my first mock test was 3 months after I first started studying. So like a month before the exam.
So okay, like the November, December range.
Okay, there we go.
I was gonna say, so we are sharing again, so people can see
mock test. Yeah. Okay, here we go. My first GMAT official mock test was on the 8th of December. So
okay.
When was that? 8th of December. Yeah. So yeah, less than a month before I took the actual exam.
Okay. And was this the only mock test you took, or did you take a couple between December and that January run up?
Yeah, I took 4, I believe.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you basically were doing one a week once you had built your fundamentals, you had built your base, you
Yeah.
felt you were going to start seeing 700s on your mock tests, if I no have heard your strategy correctly.
Yeah. So the first thing I did was learn all the concepts. Second thing I did was practice the concept untimed. And then I did the mock test, which was a very interesting one because it's my first mock test was my only experience of timed GMAT questions. Or my
That is a
first
very interesting
mock test
strategy to
after.
not do timed on GMAT Club. We have those little timers for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get loads of notifications saying, "Oh, you need to start using the time." But I was like, "No, okay. I really just want to learn how to do the questions first, and then I'll think about timing." And funnily enough, on that test, I completely messed the timing up. I spent like 5 minutes on a question, and then like 4 minutes on the next question, and I had to guess I had to like completely skip a reading comprehension passage.
So
Um,
what did you get on that first mock?
so I still got a 700 so somehow.
Wow. All right. That's impressive. But
So yeah,
again,
so
you,
I
you didn't
was
have that timer
surprised.
going off in your head. Like, oh shoot,
No.
gotta move along here.
Yeah. Well, I had time pressure because I could see the timer in the top corner, and I'd written down like what question I should be on by what time. But I didn't have experience solving questions under time pressure, so I didn't have that like timer in the back of my head telling me, okay, this is the point at which I need to guess, or this is the point at which I need to speed up. So like with Quant, I had to guess like 5 questions or something. And I ended up with the same exact Quant score as I did that with the mock test I'd done like several months earlier before I
It,
had started studying.
and so this brings me to my next question, and I'm so glad you brought it up. How did you feel in that moment, seeing that you had made no improvement on Quant? Because you had mentioned prior that you didn't want to take mocks because you didn't want to have to feel defeated and need to motivate yourself to push through walls.
Mm,
You want just that fire to keep burning hot, knowing, yeah, I know I'm making progress.
mm.
Um, what was that feeling like in that moment when you looked at it and said, shoot?
Oh well, because I hadn't done any mocks since I'd actually started studying for the GMAT, I sort of had no idea where I was at. And I knew I'd completely messed up on the timing on both sections. So I was dreading the score popping up. I was thinking, oh no, 3 months of revision, like 1 month until my real exam. I'm gonna like I'm gonna see like a 630 or something pop up. And then a 670 popped up. Not 670, a 700 popped up. And I was like, oh, like that sort of took me by surprise. Um, I think my reaction was I just started laughing at it. I don't know why. I guess in surprise. So you how did I feel getting a Quant 47 after 3 months, having studied Quant the whole time and not made an improvement? I was completely fine with it. The reason why is because I know the questions I got wrong was because of timing. So there was I knew if I worked on timing, then I'd be fine. I also went back on those mocks, the one I got 700 on. I looked at the number of questions I got wrong, and I
Mhm.
compared that to previous ESRs, and they just didn't match up. So I got a far higher number of questions wrong on the GMAT official mock test than the same equivalent score on the real test would show on the ESR results. So I didn't really trust that I would get a 700 if I took a test at that point on the real GMAT.
Ooh, okay. Well, actually, so I guess because I want some people to hear, did you ever hit that wall where you're like, shoot, how am I going to motivate myself? Because I'm really struggling to light that fire to get going. Or did you never have that, all is lost moment?
I know you're probably expecting me to say yes. I don't think I ever did.
No,
The
some
reason
people
is
don't. It's okay to say
I
you
don't.
never had to. Some people don't. It's a smooth process.
No, I don't. I didn't. No, I never had that because I think I did my mocks so late and I was quite rigorous with my study. I think the struggle that I had was resisting the temptation to take mocks while I was studying because I was studying all this time and I just had like no idea where I stood. Like I had no idea if I'd make any like progress. There was no tangible, visible result that I could see. So that was the big struggle for me, not so much the feeling of defeat, a feeling of being defeated. I almost wanted to like not take the test in case I didn't want to have to deal with the feeling of being defeated.
That's an interesting conundrum to be in. Wow. Well, so let me ask, because again, this goes in line with the motivation concept. You were studying a lot and for a long time. I assume the motivation was strictly, this is the gatekeeper. This is what I need to do to go to where I want to be. Therefore, I'm going to do anything in my power to get there. Was that
That's
a fair
exactly what
statement?
my mentality was. Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Awesome. And that's what everyone who watches this video, everyone on GMAT Club should be under the impression of, which is, if this is your dream to get an MBA or to get a master's, and this is the thing that's standing in your way, you know what you have to do. If it's not your dream, you can go and say, you know what, I can deal without it. But if you're looking for motivation, you have your motivation in front of you. So I hope that you understand that that is the thing that you should be chasing. But
yeah, I think so. During the period, during this 3 month period where I was studying loads and had no idea where I stood, I think watching videos just like the viewers are watching now really helped me.
and we're happy to hear that you saw some of these videos, I believe, and that you found them to be helpful. Let's now go to, so you got 700. The next mock test you took, I assume it was a little bit higher.
Yeah, so I did only timed practice. Like I really, because it was firstly, okay, so let's have a look.
Again, so we were,
I think I probably
first
even
week
have
of
it up here.
December, we took the mock. Now we're doing
Okay, so
timed
here you go. So
practice.
here we go. So I took official mock test 8th of December, and then I
Yep.
wrote a note over here saying question grinding with focus on timing. And then I bought the GMAT notepad as well. The like the
Ooh, that's
GMAT
crucial.
practice. Yeah. I would highly advise everyone do that. Also, I changed my timing. It was no longer 45 minutes, 45 minutes, 45 minutes. For quant, I did blocks of 62 minutes because I wanted to get in the habit of focusing for the same period of time that I would have to in the real test for quant, and then
Build your
65
endurance.
minutes for verbal. So it was timing and endurance that I was really focusing on. I knew the concepts. So each day I'd pick a topic and I'd do like 3 hours. Yeah, 3 hours of arithmetic, then properties of integers, then fractions and all that. With really just focusing on timing. And then I scored a 760 on my practice test.
Okay, so that had to put a smile on your face.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it definitely did. That was on Christmas Day as well.
Oh,
it was
wow.
a very, very, very positive Christmas for me.
And that was your second mock or your last mock?
So that was my third mock.
Okay.
It was my third mock because my first was my
oh, right.
the one I did. So
yep.
610, then 3 months of revision, then 700, then about 2 weeks of revision, and then 760.
Yes.
And then that's kind of where and then okay, so we got 8th of December. So you can see during this period is when I was focused on timing, and then it must have been around 25th of December. Here we go, 3.5 hours. That was the test.
It looks like you took the day off prior to help maybe allow
yourself. Yeah, that's something you need to mention. Yeah, okay. So I wanted to deliberately sleep poorly 2 days before the exam so that I could fall asleep quicker, especially under the stress that I would be the day before the exam, so I could sleep longer than normal. So I wanted to test this strategy out before going into the real test in case it was just not going to work. So that's exactly what I did. So on the 23rd of December, I slept poorly. I did nothing on the 24th of December. I slept really, really well. I think I slept 9 hours. And then I took a mock test, got a 760. But I know that the official, well, I read online that the official mocks aren't as accurate on the high end of the scale. So I didn't fully trust it. But yeah, so that was pretty good. And then, to be honest, I think I got a bit complacent. I thought, oh, okay, 760, I must be doing reasonably well. I kind of didn't push myself so much. And then you can see for the last sort of few weeks, I did, what did I average there? 3.5 hours a day. It's still not too bad. But considering I had like 14 hours awake to do, or 16 hours awake, it's perhaps not as much as I could have done. And then I took another mock test a few days later. I got a 710. Yeah, the official, one of the official ones. I got 710. I was pretty happy with that.
When did you take that? Was that on the 30th or the 31st?
Okay. I got a bit complacent with my, I think it was, okay, so GMAT official mock test. I took another mock test here, 28th. So it's 3 days after I got the 760. I got 710 on the other GMAT official mock.
Interesting that you take them so close to each other. That's that can lead obviously to mixed results and subsequently to underperformance.
So my strategy was it was very like, okay, learn the material, practice the material, time the material, practice the exam. That was my 4-step approach. I'm not sure if that's the most the most efficient way of doing it, but that's what I had in my mind. I was like, okay, once I've done all the first 3 steps, okay, now I just want to crack down and focus on the strategies of taking this particular exam.
I agree with the first steps. The last one being like, okay, now I just want to focus on the test itself. I'd advise most students to mix in studying with mocks, but
yeah,
that's just my take. But whatever works for you works for you. Everyone's going to study differently for this test. Everyone's going to see different results. So you took the 710. You said you were feeling good because you were still above your 700 threshold.
Yeah.
I mean, walk us through test day. This was it. This was 3+ months of spending your life isolated.
I actually got 680 as well afterwards. On the last test before I walked into the exam, I got 680.
Okay, so how are you feeling? Sort of seeing.
That was. I knew I hadn't slept as well as I should have. I could feel mentally I wasn't really with it on that 680. So walking into the test, I still didn't feel confident knowing roughly where I was because, as I said before, the number of questions I was getting wrong, when I compared the number of questions I was getting wrong to the real GMAT ESR results that previous people have shown, they just didn't really match up. So I didn't know. But because I didn't know, I was like, okay, well, if I spend my time thinking about what score I'm going to get, it's not going to help me actually increase my score. So why don't I just focus on what I actually need to do? So I slept poorly 2 days before the exam. I think I slept like 5 or 6 hours. And then I slept 8.5 hours the day before the exam. So that worked out quite well. It was quite broken sleep, so I wasn't too confident. I deliberately didn't check how many hours because I sleep tracked with one of those smartwatches. I deliberately didn't check that. I woke up, did 12 practice questions, looked over my notes because I made flashcards as part of my revision.
So you warmed yourself up.
Yeah, I warmed myself up. Yeah, I was lucky I got those 12 questions right, and then I just walked into the exam.
All right.
Yeah. Some of them were like 500 level questions. I kind of deliberately went a bit easier on the questions because I didn't want to knock my own confidence before going in. So yeah, I turned up to the GMAT test center. My friend, someone I met, told me to go to a specific test center because it was more quiet. So I did that. Turned up. Things went smoothly. Yeah, you just clicking through those screens was fine. Like one of the screens I had to go back and forth a few times because the screen width wasn't large enough for one of the it was a relevant detail. So yeah, I started the test and I remember looking at the screen and I was like, oh, okay, this is actually it. There was definitely like I probably lost about 30 seconds thinking, oh my god, this is actually it. And then I kind of
nothing can prepare you for that moment where you click go or it finally flashes and it says welcome to the test, and to your point, your brain has to realize you're in a new environment. There's no more, oh, it doesn't really matter, I'm just gonna be upset with myself if I get it wrong. Each question matters And that takes a huge amount of mental fortitude to withstand and get over. It's the
Yeah,
first big
that was
wave.
yeah. So yeah, it's like a wave that hits you, and it's like, okay, there's no turning back. You can't like click back on the previous screen. Like no. Like it's just like full steam ahead. So I was like, okay, well, I could sit there thinking about the fact this is the real test, or I could just focus on the question. So I started. I didn't think it went particularly well for verbal. It's quite. I always find it's quite hard to gauge how well I've done well, like whether I've done well or not.
That
So
probably helped you actually on the exam, because a lot of people will defeat themselves while they're taking it, where they'll say, "Oh my God, this question is super easy. I clearly screwed up somewhere. Oh my, no, my score is ruined." At least you have the ability to say, I you know what? I don't know how I'm gonna go. I can't measure it that accurately, so I'm just gonna see how it plays out."
yeah, I mean, it really was sort of just directing my. It was like two little, like an angel and a devil. The devil was saying, "Oh my God, you better not screw up. This is the real GMAT," and then the angel was saying like whatever the question was really. And it was just almost like just directing your focus at the right place. So yeah, I did that. On my break, I had half a banana and an energy bar. So I'd prepared that in advance to keep my energy levels high. Quant was easier than what I had practiced. So I think it felt fine. Also, guys, like gauge the temperature before you get in, because I wasted time like taking my jacket off in the quant section. So yeah, do that. Yeah, quant section I felt went okay, but I didn't manage to finish. So I guessed the last question. I remember
Oh,
I
do you
had
think that's
40.
what the difference was between 50 and 51?
Well, I had got 4 questions wrong, so probably not. From past ESR results, I think it's possible. Like I think it's possible to get a Q51 with 3 questions wrong. But
I
yeah,
mean, it's that 3 to 4 line. When you start flirting with that, you're close.
really, okay, that's a shame. Yeah, so I had to guess that maybe. So like the first 2 questions I got wrong. If you look at the ESR, like the difficulty level, it's like the point goes like above where the like the top line finishes. So I know the first 2 questions I got wrong was really hard. The third questions I got wrong was a silly mistake. I still remember it.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, you know what? That was probably the one that sunk the ship.
Yeah. I mean, the difficulty was still like medium to high, so I didn't completely tank that question.
Oh, but anyway, so you've
Yeah.
done it. You did the quant. You felt that it was easier, and clearly that worked out. You got a Q50. How'd you feel about the verbal?
I thought it went okay. Nothing spectacular.
And
So
so,
like my mindset was really like, there's no point thinking about how I've done, like because the computer's going to tell me how well I've done in like an hour or
well,
like
so
2 hours.
you go through the test. You've gotten to the end, but right before that screen pops up, that shows you your score.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
I was thinking, how do I click to get to the next screen? I wasn't really aware of like how how many screens you have to like click through to get to the score.
Oh, so it
So
was
I
a
was really
surprise. You're
just
like,
like trying to
oh,
like
wait,
click.
there it
Yeah, I
is.
was like, I was just clicking like next. At some point, I got an error message saying, "Oh, you need to like accept or cancel the score." I was like, "What?" And then like I was expecting like some big number like in the middle of the screen, but no, it's like this small little number and a few lines. Um,
And how'd you feel with the 730?
Yeah, very, very good. I was not expecting it at all. I thought maybe 700. I had to like calm myself down because I knew there were people who were taking the test next to me. So I couldn't do some wild celebration, which I certainly, I don't know, it was just surreal. I wasn't expecting it.
I mean, but isn't that part of the joy of working so hard for something, and once you achieve it,
Yeah.
you have that surreal out of body experience where you're saying, I did it.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's the joy I got out of doing the GMAT isn't necessarily the score. It's just this sort of like underlying confidence that I got that I structured a plan and I executed it and it worked. Like the fact that I put so much energy into something and I did better than I expected just gives me so much confidence going forward that whatever it is that I'm gonna have to face, I can tackle.
You are an interesting man, Duan. You have to give you credit. Not too many people are sitting there saying, yeah, no, the score is nice, but you know what really gives me a smile? I executed my plan. Like, not too many
Because
people come on
like
here and say that.
GMAT's not, it's good. I needed to get a good score. Like I got a good score. But like going into the future, I can just apply the same sort of it's like the mental fortitude you build. Yeah, so that the score is nice. It's very, very good. But
You
at the end,
proved
it's
something
just
to
a number,
yourself.
I guess. It's a number that helps you get into like a good school.
And you will. You will have your choice of schools. I can almost guarantee that.
Yeah. But no, I think also because I was never someone that tried particularly hard at school. Like my friends and all that would always do better than me. I was never considered like the smart person at school.
Was
So
that
so
because
the
of a
fact
lack of effort or because of just, I won't say lack of intelligence, but you just weren't like, no, Einstein?
no, I'm by no means like super smart or anything. Like I maybe you should
Dude, you
title
fooled
it.
me.
Yeah, well, I didn't. Yeah, amongst my peers at school, I was like amongst the less smart or the less performing. So this is the first time I've really sort of tried hard at an academic endeavor, and it worked, and that has given me a lot of confidence going forward.
Well, I mean, I hope you do understand. A 730, I want to say ballpark is around the 96th percentile.
Well, you hit it. You hit the nail on the head.
I was going to go 95, but I'm like, shoot, if I say 95 and it's either 94 or 96, I'm going to be pissed. So I'm going to go high.
Yeah. It's 96th. So
So
I'm very happy with the score.
only 4% of the people who ever take the exam do better than you. 4%. I mean, what were your friends like at school? Was it Stephen Hawking and, I reiterate, Einstein and, any other mathematician out there? Because you do seem to me a genuinely intelligent human being and one who is not of the average intelligence level, but no, significantly above that.
I don't think I'm in the top. If you took all the people on the GMAT, I don't think I would be in the top 4% most naturally intelligent. So I knew that I had to be in the top, like above the top 4% most hardest working, I guess, in order to compensate for that. So that's what I was thinking. I was like, because I knew I had to get like a 700, which is what, like top 13%, not like 90, 87th percentile,
A
something like that.
700's the top. I think you're in the 90th percentile at that point.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm probably not in the top 10% most intelligent. So I better like maximize how hard I work. So I was like, okay, if I'm in the top, like maybe like 2% hardest working, I'll probably have a good chance. That was my mentality going into the exam.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what you need. Unless you are someone who is brilliant, which there are. There are people who've come on here and said, I studied for 2 weeks and got a 760. Well, awesome. You're God's gift to the world. You are clearly brilliant. Most people do not have that level of intelligence, and it's about how hard you're going to work and how badly you want it. If you're going to work hard and you're determined and you won't let anything get in your way, as Dewan has shown, you're going to get that score. You are going to achieve your goal. I promise you. One of
Yeah,
my
you've got to want it.
moderators. Yeah, go
You've
ahead.
really, really got to want it. And I
I mean,
did. Like
one of,
you like really like deeply got to want it. You can't be like, oh, it'd be nice to have a 700. Okay, unless you're a genius and you start off at like a 680 or something. If you want a 100-point improvement, you've got to really want it.
one of my moderators on GMAT Club, great guy. He's now a retired moderator because he's going on to bigger and better things. He's at U Chicago booth right now for his MBA. Ladies and gentlemen, he took 2 years studying, and I've spoken about him prior on other videos. 2 years, and he finally broke through. Think about the commitment he had to give. Think about the work ethic. Think about the fact that this was his dream and nothing was going to prevent him from doing well on the exam. That's what you
Yeah.
need.
Yeah, it's a tough exam. I read a bunch of those stories of those people that took many, many years to do the GMAT, and I was like, I don't have that luxury. I think a lot of these people they study part-time, so I was like, okay, I'm better off like focusing all of my energy on the GMAT for a short-ish period of time, and then like breaking through in one go, than having it like drag out on and on and on, and then like affect me like mentally, and of like having several relapses. So yeah, for me. It was like, right, give all of everything I've got and try and do it in one or like several in a short-ish period of time.
That's the right way to approach it. So I'm going to transition now to some of the questions. Let's see if we have any ones that can be answered. All right. This one I'll answer really fast. So Locke asks if we could give him verbal mocks other than Manhattan. If you've exhausted your official ones in Manhattan, there's really, I mean, you shouldn't even be using Manhattan to measure your verbal necessarily. Once you've exhausted the official ones, I mean, you kind of just got to roll the dice and hope that you're getting an accurate representation based on the questions you're taking, because there's not really anything else out there beyond it. Dawn, did you take GMAT Club tests or no?
Yeah, I paid like the $80 or something for the GMAT Quant ones, but I know the questions about verbal.
Right. So
For
the quant
verbal,
ones are great. Verbal sucks. I hope everyone's aware. Alex then asks, how are you scoring in the GMAT test? Initially, I was getting around 700 level questions, and my score was changing drastically. But now I have 5 tests left. So what would be your recommendation to him?
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to get this up. So my first GMAT Club test was the day before my first mock test, where I got 700. So I got a Q48. The number of 700 questions, I think I was getting, as you said, you're getting about 17. I think I was getting roughly between 15 and 19 700 level questions, which I found to be a much higher number than on the real test. I definitely found the real test easier
They are
than
more
GMAT Club.
difficult. Just so everybody's aware, the GMAT Club quant tests are significantly harder than the real thing, purposefully.
Yeah. So I got Q48, Q47, Q42. That was a rough one. So I was tired that day. I shouldn't have taken the mock. And I got Q50. Was my last GMAT Club mock before taking the exam.
So, Alok, I hope that helped you. You also asked which criteria is the best representation of the actual GMAT. NBA.com, GMAC, they have the real ones, so you should use those. Puja or Puja, I'm sorry, again, I'm an illiterate American. He did not use any other prep courses. For Akshay here, he's looking for a study buddy. So if anybody else is looking for a study buddy on this video, reach out to him. I can try to make the error log more interface user-friendly, but to be honest, I'm not a coder, so I can pass on recommendations. Last but not least from JP, how did you manage your verbal timing? I guess he's asking, like, were you strong in critical reasoning and maybe okay at reading comp, and then you could spend like 3 minutes on SC, or what was the balance there?
That's a good question. So from what I researched, reading comprehension was the hardest one to improve in like a short period of time, because
I disagree with that.
Really?
Well, personally, but then again, I wrote a reading comprehension guide, so.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that was my mentality. I don't know whether it's right or wrong.
No, yeah, right. I shouldn't critique. So please continue.
Yeah. Well, so I thought reading comprehension was going to be the hardest to improve out of the 3. I thought that sentence correction was going to be the easiest to improve out of the 3. So I devoted most of my time towards practicing and timing verbal sentence correction and critical reasoning, because if I managed to reduce the timing on those 2 sections, it would give me longer to do the reading comprehension passages. So my ESR, I think I spent an average of, let me get my ESR up. Sorry, I should have prepared this beforehand. Right, I don't know where it is. So I think I spent an average of 1 minute 30-ish for sentence correction, which is what I was aiming for. And that would give me a bit of extra time for critical reasoning and reading comprehension, which generally took longer. But I've met some people that they averaged like a minute for sentence correction, which I don't know how you do. But yes, I don't know. Perhaps you're in a better position to answer this question.
I mean, yes and no. I was always stronger in critical reasoning. Ironic that I'm an American, I'm a native speaker, and sentence correction was probably my worst subject. But I would always aim for 2 minutes was the cutoff for any question of any kind, no matter what. So if I was coming up on 2 minutes and I was still struggling and I probably knew there was no end in sight, that was just a question that was going to keep, kicking me in the butt, I was going to guess and just move on. If I knew I was getting very close and could maybe get it in the next 20 or 30 seconds, I would then go forward with it, but knowing that I would have to make it up in some way on CR or RC. So that would be my personal recommendation, but everyone's different. So
also, if you were to plot a graph of percent like accuracy with like how much time you have, I think with sentence correction, you're able to, like, if you have like barely any time left, you can get a far higher number of sentence correction questions right than you can with any other type of verbal question. Because like with sentence correction, a lot of the time you can read it and then just sort of like immediately understand like what's wrong with each answer choice, or get really quick eliminations. Whereas with reading comprehension and sentence correction, you've actually got to read the bulk of the passage to even understand like which answers are likely going to be wrong.
That's a fair assessment. If you know all the rules or majority of the rules, and you can read and you see singular versus multiple SV agreement issues, or so on and so forth, and you get that 2-3 split, and you can narrow it down to a 1 out of 3 or even a 1 out of 2. I would agree that technically is going to give you better odds. But JP, glad to have helped. I'm out of questions at this point. Duan, did you want to tell our audience anything or include in this debrief anything that I did not hit on?
So quick tip I got from a friend. The Manhattan Guide suggests writing down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or A, B, C, D, E for the questions. I find it much quicker just to use my fingers. I'll just be like, okay, this is A, B, C, D, E, and then like you just cross them off with your fingers. I found that to be helpful for timing because timing was definitely a struggle for me.
And you're talking about just for any question, saying, okay, I know it's not A, okay, it's not B, it's not C.
Yeah.
E.
I didn't do that for Quant. Yeah, I didn't do that for Quant. So yeah, I'll just go through and then eliminate them and then do this and then you can consider the ones that I left and then you just pick one and go and just move on to the next question.
And that is a decent strategy. I was always of the mindset of just like crossing out. No, but I mean, that's on a paper exam. If you can't do that, to your point, just if you have to mentally do that, it creates extra time. So if you can just do.
Yeah, because otherwise I'd like forget which ones I'd crossed off mentally.
Well, Duan, thank you so much for joining us here on a Saturday. This was a great debrief, in my opinion. I hope our users got a lot out of it. You have a bright future ahead of you, and you should be very excited about it. For those of you who joined us here, I know it's late in India, which a lot of our users are from, and subsequently are viewing this at this hour. So thank you very much for joining us. Please join us again for future debriefs and for future GMAT Club videos where we do them fairly frequently. Not that you're not special, Duan. Let's be clear about that. You are special. But we do these frequently, and we hope to see all of you folks here again. So for myself, GMAT Club, Duan, thank you all so much, and we hope to see you soon. Take care, everybody.